Hello and welcome to IMHO. Today I'm speaking to Cindy Krum about search, AI mode, and trust in SERPs. Cindy is the founder of MobileMoxie, and in 2022, she was named as one of the top 10 most influential SEOs by the USA Today. Cindy has spoken this year at several events using the same theme of Google Mum and AI journeys. The overview of this is that Google is not only internationalizing its platform, but it's also converging AI Overview, Google Discover, and AI Mode into a unified, hyper-personalized search experience. And this evolution aligns with Google's broader push towards understanding search as journeys rather than static queries underlined by Mum. And Cindy, please tell me, what do you think are the implications for SEO? And what part of this shift to AI organized search and journeys do you think most SEOs are underestimating right now?
Ooh, I think it is a bigger shift than what some SEOs ha have been talking about. Um, I think it's a fundamental shift in the way Google sees themselves as a company and the way that they see the value that they provide. In 2018, just after Google launched mobile first indexing, which we've all re-understood as entity first indexing, right? That was the real shift, was organizing search results around entities. And they said that they want to be more predictive, more conversational, and what was the third one? There's one more. I always forget the third one, but more predictive, more conversational, oh, and more personalized. Though that was their goal in 2018. And so we've seen what's happened between 2018 and now we're seeing all of this stuff with AI come in. And I think what's happening is the everything they've been doing since 2018 has been feeding this goal of getting us into this AI search reality. And you talked about my theory, and it's just a theory so far, but what I was saying, or what I've been saying for a couple weeks, is it was interesting that Google announced this consolidation of the Google CCTLDs, which they've tried to do once before mobile first indexing. They tried to get rid of all the country specific versions of Google and go just to google.com, and it didn't work. They had to roll that back. Now they're trying it again, and they announced that the same week that they announced Google Discover coming to desktop. And just after the announcements around AI mode and closely following AI overviews and AI organized search results and all this stuff, right? And it just seems like this change is picking up momentum. And maybe they'll have a consolidated thing where they put Google Discover and AI mode together, or maybe they'll keep them separate. But what we have to know as SEOs is they are mixing the data in the background. They're tracking people across all the surfaces to make sure that those people have a good experience, find what they want, and to make sure that they're serving them the right ads. Because that's how Google makes money. We can't forget how Google makes money, and it's ads.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know quite a few people have been talking about. I spoke to John Chahata recently about Google Discover, but one thing I'm going to pick up on there is the internationalization. Nobody else has really spoken that much about this, and what implications do you think this is going to have? Because to have just
I
one
think no one
unified.
knows. No one knows what to think, but I can back it into like why would they do it, right? And why did they try and do it with mobile first indexing? And the reason they tried to do it with mobile first indexing is because of the way that big data works and the way that AI needs to learn. Um, when you have things separated out by country and language, then you have smaller pipelines of learning data because they're organized by country and language. When you put everything together and abstract at a level of abstraction for entities, where we can disambiguate like the meaning or the relationship of this language keyword to this entity idea for all of that word in every single language, then the learning becomes that much faster, right? It's all of the data combined all at once, and we can learn about entities and things in any language and then apply it to the language that the user needs it in. And what we're already seeing is that in some cases, if Google can't pull up the right AI overview or the right answer, the right information, they are translating information that's not written in the local language, but that's written in another language, usually English, and they're translating English content to meet the needs of people who aren't searching in English because they know that this English content is the answer to that question, regardless of the language that the question was asked in. And so that saves Google the time and energy of digging deeper in this language to find the answer, whatever they know the answer is, to find someone to cite or to link to. And they just say, well, we know in English this is the answer, so this is probably the answer in Spanish as well. So they're trying to make more money in ads and spend less money in crawling and indexing and ranking. And so it's easier for them at some level to just kind of ballpark it, right? And like that's part of, I think, what was going on with Knowledge Graph as well. You could ask Google questions that didn't have answers or that had really complex or kind of weird answers. And Google would ballpark it by saying, I don't really know what you're asking, but here's a knowledge graph. You figure it out.
So just you were talking there about paid search, and I know that I was doing research for this that I'd picked up. You'd mentioned about you think that it's Google's goal to identify the journey you're on, then guide them through a funnel where they can either make money from you, gather more data, or most likely do both. With Google, do you think they're pushing users toward paid ads, or do you think that is a business model can actually sustain? Or my theory is, do you think they're actually going to start to try and monetize AI mode?
No, I don't think they'll try and monetize AI mode, but I think at least not directly. They'll just use the data. They'll say to get AI mode, to get any of this stuff, you must be logged in. Right? And when you're logged in, you're giving them all your data so that they can serve you ads that are very, very targeted to you that they know that you'll convert on. And that makes them look better to their advertisers, saying, we have the highest conversion rate. We only show your ads to people who are going to click and convert. Um, and that's ultimately how they'll do it. So I think they'll monetize AI mode just by capturing all the data and adding in ads that probably users won't even mind, right? If the ads are targeted enough, and Google also has access to all the deals, right? So Google might have a profile on me that says, she likes to spend money on this, but not on this. She's really cheap on that, right? And so they'll send me stuff that's at the right price point where it's easy for me to convert.
Do you think then that they're actually going to get to the point where, like you say, they're creating this seamless journey and they'll have almost like a full database on you and your likes, etc., your personal choices. And then at that point of when they can see you're getting ready to purchase, they'll suddenly just push in a lot of highly targeted, relevant ads to you. Do you think that's where they're going with this?
Yeah, why wouldn't they? In their mind, that's the perfect answer, right? Like give
Yeah.
you all the information you need to get you to the decision point, and then when you're at the decision point, like they can already have that mapped out and understood as well. Like she takes this long to make a decision when it's in this price range and this long, and yeah, I think that would be the smartest thing, and I think that's part of why in the paid side of things we've switched over to PMax. It's a bit of a black box. Why? Because Google's making these decisions on metrics that they know they can't trust the advertisers to control.
Do you think moving forward that people should focus more on, I mean, I know this is a completely different random question, but should SEOs focus more on SEO or paid search?
I think SEOs should be at least aware of how paid search works and what's changing over there. And I think SEOs are going to have to get a better idea of what real branding looks like and not just SEO branding or SEO PR, but what real branding looks like when it's digital. Because it includes PPC, but it also includes social and includes a lot of different things. And all of those different things are what Google and the other AI search options are using to understand a product. Like the ChatGPT is not just looking at your website to understand your product. They're looking at Reddit and all of the places where people might be talking about your product. They're looking on Facebook, anything they can get their hands on where your product is mentioned, that's what they're looking at. And so to be able to influence the narrative in any kind of AI search result, you have to be actively influencing all those things. And SEOs for years have been so focused on their website that to the detriment of every other branding opportunity out there. So yeah, people should know about paid and know how things are being done in paid and what's changing there just to get the holistic idea. Because, a lot of paid now is happening in YouTube. And YouTube is a great opportunity to reach customers with a similar but different formatted message. And some users love videos and want to find out about things in videos or from influencers or on TikTok. So yeah, being aware of the entirety of the brand exposure online is really important, I think, moving forward.
It's interesting you were talking a little bit there about some other platforms, and I picked up a comment you made. I think it was one of your other talks this year, which was about how brand association, user trust, and cross-platform visibility are now vital for success. Um, do you actually think the future of search is moving away from Google? Do you think Google will still remain dominant, or do you recommend that SEOs embrace other platforms? I mean, I know you just talked about how we should be looking at, how users look at Reddit, TikTok, other platforms. But in terms of actual dominance, do you think more emphasis should be made away from Google?
Yeah, I think that users still like Google, although some savvy users are losing trust for Google and they're picking up on the idea that like Google results aren't as good as they used to be. But what we have to kind of recognize is that it's not just that Google is changing, users are changing and user behavior is changing. And I think that um, people go to Google when they kind of already know what they want. But if you want to be super top of funnel, you have to get in front of users who are open to it, and that's happening a lot more in the short video TikTok. There are influencers for every kind of niche activity, and the more niche, the better, right? Like the more niche, the more fanatical the influencers' followers are, and the better the community. So finding the communities where product and service discovery is happening in the first place, it could, that's really important, and that's not Google.
I picked up that you recently said that SEOs are hoping to ride out AI with the same old strategy or in for a shock, and that if you're not adapting, you're already behind. Test new traffic sources, broaden your reach, experiment.
Yeah.
How should SEOs rethink their strategy when specifically optimizing for search journeys instead of just, it was always keywords and rankings? How do we now
Yeah.
focus on search journeys?
Well, so this is the evolution. I think it's gone from optimizing for keywords to optimizing for entities to optimizing for journeys. And when we do journey optimization, it really is just basic marketing because it's like understanding the real journey that the customer takes, not just understanding the search and the Google search journey or the journey on your website, but understanding how they got there in the first place. And if it started, on a social network or offline with an influencer on TV, or what was the full journey. And so what I've been telling people to kind of understand more about journeys, at least in Google, is when you do certain searches, you get a new layer of navigation at the top or on the side that already shows what Google knows about this topic. And that's kind of the beginning of a potential fan out where Google is kind of showing their cards and saying, these are the queries that we expect, you're going to narrow down this query, and this is the most likely thing that you're going to narrow it down with. And it's like 5 or 10 options. And then when you do that, a lot of the time there's another layer. And so if you start to map that out and say, this is what Google thinks the journey is, this is where we fit into that. And this is where Google needs to be educated more about the journey and how we need to like influence Google into understanding a new aspect of the journey and us as the resource for that aspect of the journey. And then that helps you know what to write about, what to talk on forums about, what to post videos about, stuff like that is either where you fit into the journey, and how you answer questions in the journey.
It's just an interesting question just to throw at you, actually. If you were starting today, like completely online, afresh, anew, starting all over, where would you start? Where would you throw your budget? Where would you throw the majority of your budget?
This is a very controversial take, but I would put it in TikTok
Oh.
because TikTok is where the young people are. TikTok has a store. It's very and TikTok videos are repurposed and used on every other social network and shared on every, like you see TikTok videos on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere,
Mm.
and it's not going the other way.
Yeah, this is certainly. I mean, I was watching. There's a program in the UK called Dragon's Den. I think you have it
Yeah,
in the US, and there was a girl came on and she had created, I think it was like a an oil for her hair, and she had just been experimenting on TikTok, and she'd had such a huge interest in her experimentation. So it was just purely experimentation that she built her own product. And then her business just went insane. She made millions. She was in her early 20s and she was there
yeah,
on Dragon's Den. I think she was just there sort of trying to just get the brand exposure more than
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm seeing more and more businesses. You watch Dragon's Den more and more now. There are more and more businesses that are just saying, "Oh yeah, I was on TikTok or on social media and I built this business and now I don't know what to do. How do I
Yeah.
take it into the real world?" And it's like, well, that is the real world.
That is the real world. Yeah. And the other thing is like being on Dragon's Den probably drove her subscribers up like
Yeah,
crazy, right? Like
yeah,
maybe she
yeah,
was just trying to hit her own
yeah,
metric like by getting exposure.
yeah,
Maybe she didn't want investment, right? Like there's
exactly.
there's this back and forth that the awareness creates. Yeah, it's fascinating in that it's, sometimes feels like the tail is wagging the dog. But it's funny though
So
because there's still like a lack of level of trust even with the influencers to some degree because savvy shoppers and kids probably know the influencers are making money, right? And if
yeah,
you watch fashion influence, what almost any of the influencers these days, um, they like everything. They're not like, look at this dress. It's so cute. This one, oh, so cute. There's never like, this isn't for me. Like this is cheaply made, whatever. Like, which I think, so I think that one's going to get super saturated as well. Of like, there are still benefits to the influencers, right? Like you get to try them on and or see, let them try it on for you, see how they style it, whatever, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's still incentives that might cause them to to say they like something when they don't actually like it so much.
yeah. I was just saying before, my theory is that people will do more research across TikTok and Reddit. And then eventually, when they've done all the research and made their mind up and they're at a point of purchase, they will probably then go to Google to check out. So Google's perhaps just going to become a glorified marketplace.
But yeah,
Yeah.
people go to Google when they kind of already know what they want. They're not going there for
Yeah.
discovery.
Just before we leave, I know obviously you have your fantastic tool, Mobile Moxie, and that's at mobilemoxie.com.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, it's been fantastic to speak to you, Cindy, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.